Hello guys, so welcome to this task, the optional Vagrant task. ALS says this task is optional, but like I told us before, every task in ALS is very important. You need to do this optional task, this advanced task, in order to have very high scores above your 80% mark. Remember that here you are in the probation month. So what that means is that you are not an ALS student yet. Now after the probation month, if you are able to score an average of 80%, then you'll be confirmed as ALS student. So that's why from now, your project is going to be carrying 0 months. All right. So this task is as important as every other task. And why? Because like I said in my previous video, you are going to need an external terminal to be able to work when we start doing C programming. The default sandbox in an intranet will not just work out for you. It's going to stress you. So I already did a video on how you can use gitbash, but today we're going to be looking on how we can install Vagrant, virtual machine, Ubuntu in our local computer. All right. So this is the task. The Vagrant task. So like I said, they said it's optional, but you just have to make sure you do this task. All right. Now, what is a virtual machine? A virtual machine is actually a bus that helps you to install an operating system without partitioning your computer. All right. You know that traditionally what we do is that if we want to install more than one OS in a particular computer, you need to partition your hard drive. All right, one part for this operating system, this other part for this operating system. But with the help of a virtual bus, it's like installing an extra operating system in your computer without partitioning your computer. So you just download the virtual bus and that serves as a partition already in your computer. So from there you can then install an operating system inside the virtual bus. All right. So by the time you install that, the next thing you will need Vagrant. So what is Vagrant and what does Vagrant do? So Vagrant will then help us to set up the virtual bus, because the task of setting up a virtual bus is so hectic. Trying to set up a virtual bus manually is so hectic. All right. So Vagrant is already automated. All right. So it's automated to help us set up a virtual bus using a Vagrant file. So once you download the Vagrant file and install the Vagrant file inside your virtual bus, it helps you to automatically set up your virtual machine in order to be able to install your Ubuntu OS in your virtual bus. Okay. Now, another thing you need to do is that you need to make sure that Vagrant is your computer is enabled for virtualization. Okay. Now, it's not every computer that is enabled for virtualization. So you need to be sure that your computer is enabled for virtualization before you can be able to install VirtualBox and Vagrant in your computer. So what that means is that there are some systems actually that you cannot use a virtual bus in, or you can download a virtual bus, but it might not work because your system does not support virtualization. And in some cases, your system might support virtualization, but it is not enabled. So you need to enable it first. So what do you do first? First, for you to be sure if your system supports virtualization or not, you need to first of all, I'm going to type in all this in the description of the video. I don't want this video to be too long. All right, so I will just go through the steps with us and then put in the commands in the description of this video. All right, I already have Ubuntu installed in my system. All right, so first you need to make sure that your system enables virtualization. And how do you do that? First, you are going to open your command prompt. So you don't open it the usual way. You're going to be using the Windows key plus the arrow key in your keyboard to open your command prompt. So Windows key plus the arrow key in your keyboard. Tap open, and when it opens, inside the space provided, type in CMD. When you type in CMD inside the space provided, hit the enter key. All right. So now when you hit the enter key, it's going to open the command prompt for you. In your command prompt, go ahead and type in this command, system info. SYSTEMINFO. I'm going to put that in the description of this video. So enter system info and then press enter. All right, now once you press enter, once you enter system info and press enter, it's going to bring you, let you know that your system is either enabled for virtualization or not. Okay, so if your system is enabled for virtualization, go down to where you see Hyper-V requirements. All right, so just scroll down to where you see Hyper-V requirement. All right, so when you see where it says Hyper-V requirement, you'll be able to see a section. All right, and in that section you will see if virtualization is turned on or is turned off. In front of the option you will see virtualization enabled in Firmware. All right, so this means that if you see no in front of virtualization enabled in this Firmware, that means your system is not enabled. If you see yes, that means your system is enabled for virtualization. So before you can go forward, you need to be sure that your system is enabled for virtualization. So in front of virtualization enabled in Firmware, you should see yes, that is enabled. If you see no, that means it's not enabled, you can't work. All right. Now, if you see no, what do I do? Then go to the description of this video. You're going to see a video on how to install gitbash. So that means you'll be using gitbash throughout your program in ALS. If not, I will also do another video to show us how you can install Ubuntu in your system without using Vagrant. All right, so you're going to be connecting Ubuntu through your editor, Visual Studio Code, which I will show us, using Visual Studio Code and your CMD to install Ubuntu in your operating system. All right, but if you see yes, then we can go to the next level. So how do you now enable virtualization if you see yes and it's not enabled? First, you will need to turn off your computer. All right, and when you turn off your computer, immediately you put it on, you just begin to tap the F10 key. All right, so keep tapping F10 key. Once you press the enter, the on button, just start tapping F10 key. All right, tapping continuously until the system will boot. So the system is going to boot into the BIOS area of your system. All right. So once it boots into the BIOS area of your system, now you're going to be using the arrow keys to move. you cannot use the mouse here. All right, once you get to the BIOS area of your system, you're going to be using the arrow keys to move. The arrow keys, or directional keys like some people will call it. So what will you do now? First, you need to move using the arrow right of the keyboard and move to system configuration. All right, so you will see system configuration. Once you see system configuration, tap enter. All right, now from there, you are going to use the arrow down to move to virtualization technology. So if it displays disabled, that means you are going to enable it. If it displays enabled, then there's nothing to do again. Just save and exit. So to save and exit, just tap F10 and then click yes and exit. If it's disabled, just tap enter under visualization technology. At the far right, you will see if it's enabled or not. So if it's disabled, tap enter, then use your directional key up or down to change it to enable, and then tap F10 to save and tap yes to exit. Now, once you do that, then it is time to install your VirtualBox. All right, so your system is now going to start, and then it is time to install your VirtualBox, install Vagrant, and then install Ubuntu in your operating system. Okay. So that will take us now to, so like I said, I'm going to put all these steps in the description of this video, so you just follow the steps. All right. So that will take us now to installing our VirtualBox. So first, you're going to click this link. I am not going to install any of this because I already have all this installed. So you click the VirtualBox link. All right, and then here you're going to install for Windows. So Windows host, if you're using Windows like me. If you're using Mac OS, Mac OS. If you're using Linux, Linux distribution. And after that, click this link to install Vagrant. All right, so you're going to click this link to download your Vagrant file. So same thing for Vagrant. You are going to install the Windows. So I will advise that you download the one for Windows. If you are using Mac OS, then you download the one for Mac OS. If you are using Windows, then download the one for Windows. All right. So now once you download your Vagrant. So like I say, if you're using Mac OS, download Mac OS. If you're using Windows, go ahead, download Windows. If you're using Linux, download Linux. All right. Now once you download, so for the Windows, please download the AMD. Download AMD version of it. And once you download this, the installation process is simple. Just open the file and then just tap next until you are able to install, and then once you start installing, tap on finish to finish your installation. All right. So first install the VirtualBox, and then after that install the Vagrant file. All right. So install the VirtualBox first, then install Vagrant. All right. Okay, so now you have your VirtualBox installed. The next thing you need to do now is for us to restart our computer so that we don't have errors. So it's going to prompt you to restart your computer once you install your VirtualBox and your Vagrant. So go ahead and do that. All right. Now once you do that, the next thing we're going to do now is to open our command prompt, and then we are going to install our operating system inside the VirtualBox. So open your command prompt, and once you open your command prompt, you are going to type in this command: Vagrant boss add Ubuntu Focal 64. All right. So this will take a long time. So you are just going to be patient enough, wait for it to finish installing Ubuntu. All right, so it's going to take some time. So wait for it until you finish installing Ubuntu in your virtual box. And once that is done, the next thing you need to do is to then create the Vagrant file, which will help to automatically set up our OS. Like I say, the task of setting up this manually is hectic. So we need to use the Vagrant file in order to be able to set up this automatically. So you are going to type in Vagrant init Ubuntu for cat 64. All right, so this will help us to generate the Vagrant file, all right, within our Ubuntu for cat 64. So you are going to type in Vagrant init Ubuntu for cat 64, tap enter. It's going to take some time. Wait for it. All right, so just wait for it until it's finished installing. All right, so once it's finished installing, it's going to show you that it has finished installing. All right, now the next command is to help us to install the latest version of Vagrant in our operating system to make sure that we are working with the recent version of our operating system. All right, so that command is Vagrant plugin install. All right, so we're going to type in Vagrant plugin install Vagrant vbiggest. So this will help us to install the latest version of Vagrant. It will help us to install the latest version of Vagrant so that we don't have issues with our installation. All right, and then after that command, I'm going to put in all this command in the description of this video. After that command, you are then going to start your Vagrant by typing this command, Vagrant up. All right, and then you tap Vagrant up. It will take some time to load all these files, and then after that, you're going to type in Vagrant SSH. So this will help to open the virtual machine in your command prompt. All right, so once you type Vagrant SSH, it's going to start the virtual machine or your operating system in your command prompt. So that means your operating system, once you don't have an error after typing Vagrant up and Vagrant SSH, that means you are inside your Ubuntu operating system. All right, now how do I use my Vagrant or Ubuntu operating system anytime I come into my system? How do I use it? Just open your command prompt using CMD to open your command prompt, and then type in Vagrant up and Vagrant SSH. Once you type in these two commands, your operating system is ready, your Ubuntu is ready to be used, and then from there you can start working with your Ubuntu in your command prompts. All right, so that is how you can set up Vagrant in your operating system or in your local computer. Now go through these steps, take your time. If you need to rewind the video, rewind, take your time and install this because it's going to come in handy. And if it's not enabled, like I said, you are going to use the option of using the gitbash, all right, for your task going forward. All right, so let's go ahead and look at our task, what we need to do. So you can see, okay, the commands are even here. So Vagrant, Vagrant boss, installing the plugin is here, and then Vagrant up and Vagrant SSH. Okay. All right, so now let's go ahead. Now you will execute this command line, okay, which I've talked about already. So now let's go ahead and look at our tasks for today. Okay, now for this task, let's see what they say we should do. So we're going to be using our Git. So you will need Git for this project. You might have to install on your computer if it's not done yet. So like I said, I already did a video which the link is going to be in the description of this video on how to install Git in your operating system and connecting it to your terminal. All right. So if you've not installed, please go ahead, click this link to download Git and install, because we're going to be using Git for this particular project. All right. And then we have the quiz here, which I believe that we've done already. We have the quiz here. What is a virtual machine? An emulator for a computer system. Ubuntu is a Dash distribution. Of course, it's a Linux distribution. So those are the two quiz questions. So let's go ahead and look at our question. So here they said that the first thing we need to do is that on your computer, open the terminal and do the following. Navigate to your home directory, and then so first we need to go to GitHub, create this repository, the 0-day, and then include this description. So I'm just going to copy this description, and then they say no readme, no git ignore. So let's go ahead. So I'll go to so where is my GitHub? Okay, so this is my GitHub, and then I'll just go ahead and create a new repository. So after creating the new repository, we are going to, so the name is 0-day. The name of the repository is 0-day. All right, and then we're asked to include a description, which I've copied already. This is my first repository as a full stack engineer. So it's going to be a public readme, no readme, and no, sorry, a public repo, no readme, no git ignore, and then just create your repository. Okay. Now that we've created a repository, the next thing we need to do is to open our Git. So we're going to open our Git bash, because we are working from our Git bash. All right, so we'll open our Git bash, and then from here we'll connect our Git bash to our terminal. So let's go to the task, and we are going to pick a sandbox. Okay, so we don't have a sandbox, so let's just go to sandbox and pick a sandbox from here. All right, so we're going to be using SSH, so copy SSH, then go back to your terminal, and then paste your SSH that you copied here, paste, and enter. Okay, so now we have to go back and copy our password. So copy our password, come back to our terminal and paste our password and enter. You know, note that the password will not show. So here we can then clone our repository. All right, we can then clone our repository. Remember that once you paste your password, it will not show anything. Just tap enter, paste it once, tap enter, and you are good to go. So now we're going to clone our repository, which is created from GitHub, and to do that we're going to use a command git clone /https:// and then I will copy my my secret key, and paste at github.com. .com, then / my username and the repo name. So I'm just going to copy that. Copy. So my username / my username and the name of the repository .git, and enter. Okay, so warning, you appear to have cloned an empty repository. That's okay. So the next thing we're going to do now is to cd into our repository. So we're going to do cd into 0day, enter, and here I'm going to git config so that I'm able to push back to my GitHub. So to git config, we're going to use the command git config global. We've used this before. Git config -- global, and then user.email. All right, then we'll paste user.email, then you type in your email address. So my email address, and then we're going to do the same, but this time it's going to be user.name. So git config global user.name, and here I'll type in my username and enter. Okay, so just to be sure, let's see if everything is done correctly. So it should show my username. Okay, that's fine. So now let me ls to see. So we have nothing inside our repository. The next thing we need to do is to then create our readme.md. all right, so you know what to do. So echo, so let's be sure that we don't have any echo message, default echo message they want us to use. So yeah, we need to scroll down. Okay, so let's go back to our project. Okay, so let's go ahead and look if there's a message, the default message for the readme.md. So create a file readme.md with this. Okay, so there's no message. Then they said add this new file to git, commit the changes with this message, my first commit. Okay, so let's just copy this. So this will be our commit message, my first commit, and push to the remote server. All right, so let's go back to git, and here we're going to say echo. So we just put whoa, disconnected. Okay, so let's go ahead and just add a commit, add something to the file, readme.md file that we're about to create. So echo so let's just add something and say my readme for this directory, which is 0day, then space readme.md. You know it's case sensitive. Enter. So now we're going to git add. Git commit with our commit message. No. Let's copy our commit message again. With our commit message, my first commit. No. Let's copy our commit message again and git push my first commit. Okay, so let's go ahead and check our code. If everything is done correctly, then it should tell us that we are done. Okay, so everything is done correctly. So if you go to your GitHub, you should see that you have all the changes we've made. Okay, so let's go ahead and inside your file. That's to know our code. If everything is done correctly. So all we've done thus far is to add a readme. So this is the readme done. We've pushed here. So everything is done. So let's go ahead and go to your GitHub. You should see that you have all the changes we've made. Alright, so the last question you have a readme inside your file. That's to know. They said inside the 0-day repo, create a new directory called this. So all we've done thus far. So let's create. So this is the readme we've pushed here. So let's go ahead and do the next question, which is the last question. Arrow. Right, so the last question is here. They said and then add the readme.md file to this directory. Okay, so we're going to add the readme.md. So we need to cd into that directory first. So cd into 0x Vagrant. And then here, let's add a readme file. So echo, let's just say Vagrant. Okay, and readme.md. And then what's next? So add the readme.md into this SSH into your Ubuntu VM. So what does the command uname print when you run it without any option? Type the answer into the file. Okay. Alright, so we're going to type, so if you type in the command uname in your terminal, what does it show without any option? It shows Linux. Alright, so we're just going to copy the file name, which is 0 hello Ubuntu. So here we'll use echo, and then we'll type Linux. That is what it does. When you type uname, it's going to display Linux for you, and then enter. Alright, so that is all for this question, and that's the last question. So you type in Linux into the file 0 hello world. So if we cut this file, you should see that we have Linux inside this file. So that is what that command uname does. So if we say uname and enter, it's also going to give us Linux. So you can see. So without any option attached to it, it's going to print out Linux for you. Okay, so let's git add, then git commit. So give it a commit message. My second commit. Git push. So once that is done, go ahead and check your code. Let's start a new test. Okay, so you see that it is correct. Your GitHub to see that everything is pushed correctly to your GitHub account. So we should have our second commit there. Okay, so our second commit is here. Alright, so the command uname, so if you type in uname without any option, it's going to print out Linux for us. Alright guys, so here we've come to the end of this task. If you had value, kindly subscribe, comment if you have any comments, like, and also share our videos. See you again in our next video.